Dr. Hamza Yusuf, I want to ask you a specific question. In the Muslim world today, there are countries which are considered the most corrupt. We are the followers of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. I just want to, in that period 622 to 632, did the Prophet raise the level of ethics and morality of the society first, before they became this great nation? And is it possible that if you do not have a certain level of morality in a society, that whether that society can dispense justice? Because justice and rule of law, from my whole experience in international politics, that is the base of a civilized society. So, Dr. Hamza.
In terms of the akhlaq, or the ethics of a society, it doesn't come out of a vacuum. The Arabs, prior to Islam, they had very high ideals, and they had very high ethical character in certain areas. For instance, truthfulness was very important to them. Generosity was very important to them. Honesty was something that the Arabs prided themselves in. They couldn't stand liars. And when the Prophet ﷺ said, "Innama bu'ittu li utammima makarim al-akhlaq," I was sent only to perfect noble character, there was an understanding that there was character there, but their character was distorted, so that they were boastful, they were prideful, they had character flaws. And these are the areas that the Prophet ﷺ focused on, just as a physician would focus on the diseases of the patient that comes to him. The Prophet ﷺ, he really was tabib al-qulub. He was a physician of the hearts. One of the things that he did, which was very important, is that he was amongst his people. The Quran says, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ, that a prophet has come from yourselves. Azizun alayhi ma anittum. It's difficult for him, it's onerous for him, those things that are burdening you. And one of the most interesting things to me about our Prophet ﷺ is that the people around him are called ashab. They're called companions. They're not called disciples. They're not called followers. They're called companions. And the Quran gave this idea of a brotherhood, so that they were taking care of one another, and they actually cared about one another. So I think that every culture and society, even in societies that are corrupt in certain areas, other aspects are very, very good. For instance, even in some of the most corrupt Muslim countries, there's still very strong family values. There's strong concern for things like chastity, for things like just taking care of those in need in the family. These are all things that should be focused on and emphasized. And so looking at, when you look at a society, you have to look at the things that are already working and that are healthy, and then you have to look at the things that aren't working and address those just as you would address an illness. And I think one of the problems with a lot of modern Muslims is that they tend to think like engineers. They think in problem solution. And so they look at things as if you have a problem and you identify it, and then you create a solution for that problem. Whereas I think a much healthier way to look at it is the Quranic way, which is the idea of diseases, illnesses, and cures. Because the understanding with illnesses and cures is that it takes time. If you have a problem and a solution, there's this idea that something can happen almost immediately once you address it. But if you see it as a disease, then there's time that it takes for the disease to be diagnosed and then disease to be addressed. And that's very important. But what you need, and the single most important thing, is you need the physicians. And moral and ethics in that way are physicians of the society. They're people that they have to first embody those ethics. One of the things that the pre-modern people really understood is that the people in power, people in authority, as well as the scholars, the guides of the community, they had to have a profound self-discipline. If they did not embody the very things that they were trying to inculcate into others, then that would not happen. So I think ethics, there's always an ethical basis in societies because humans are human. And ethics is part of our fitra. It's literally the Arabic word khuluq is from khalq, so it's part of our character.